But in this first hour, we want to say what we think is the we. And so we get it all screwed up, and then maybe we can get figured out in the second hour. That's what we're hoping.
You already screwed it up.
See, that's what we're hoping for.
For the 100th time, right?
Yes, for the 100th time.
I have my own opinion of what I think the we is, and I think we all do. So I think we should explore that right now.
They're probably all different.
They probably are all different. See, that's the problem, and that's what I think we should explore is the fact that when we say the we, everybody has a thought bubble of this, and they're all going to be different. And maybe with our different thought bubbles, we can
get closer to accurate.
Get closer to accurate and clarify for other people who might also be confused about it.
Welcome to the Driving to the Rest podcast. This is Inelia.
And this is Larry. Just a quick note. If you're hearing this, you're on our free feed, which means you'll only get the first part of this conversation.
To access the rest, go drivingtotherest.com and subscribe to the Wisdom Keeper Hour.
Join us and our expert panelists for detailed insights and the after party where you're invited to join in the conversation. Head over to drivingtotherez.com and become a subscriber.
Your $8 subscription keeps this podcast ad-free and helps us keep the lights on and maybe even get a decent cup of coffee. More importantly, it connects you with a community of passionate wisdom keepers like yourself. So if you're ready to go deeper, join us at drivingtotherest.com and support the journey.
Welcome to Driving to the Res with your favorite hosts, Fred, Annalena, Kara, Ileana, and Ash.
Wait a minute.
Bananas and wind.
Bananas
it's where
and
we
wind.
begin.
That's how we begin.
That's where we begin.
So we're switching it up this week, and the second hour panelists are recording the first half. We've done a takeover. And then in the Wisdom Keeper, Wisdom Seeker second half, we will have a conversation with the we, Larry, and Inelia. So stick around.
So to kick this off, we intend to talk about the we, because each of us has our own experience of the we. And we know the we is Inelia. That's her incarnation. Right?
I know.
That's complicated.
Right, exactly. And so in the second hour, we're going to talk to the we, but in this first hour, we want to say what we think is the we. And so we get it all screwed up, and then maybe we can get figured out in the second hour. That's what we're hoping.
You already screwed it up.
See, that's what we're hoping for.
For the 100th time, right?
Yes, for the 100th time.
I have my own opinion of what I think the we is, and I think we all do. So I think we should explore that right now.
They're probably all different.
They probably are all different. See, that's the problem, and that's what I think we should explore is the fact that when we say the we, everybody has a thought bubble of this, and they're all going to be different. And maybe with our different thought bubbles, we can
get closer to accurate.
Get closer to accurate and clarify for other people who might also be confused about it.
Maybe you can help us start with your perception of what the we are.
Well, we were kind of getting into that, but I'm just know from the we as a general intelligence. What is the we? It's a collective that wanted to experience life here.
Divine here.
In the contained earth, on the planet Earth in the containment area. And they found that they could be the soul in Inelia's body. Is that close to what you understand?
No.
Okay.
Parts.
Parts.
I'll go next. Okay. So my understanding of the we is they are what we might call an ultra-dimensional, let's say collective, ultra-dimensional being, many beings actually, operating as one. And by ultra-dimensional, I also mean multi-universal. So they exist in many, many universes, not just the physical universe. And they haven't had an experience of singularity. And so for reasons that I think they don't even quite understand, they made a singular expression so that they could have an experience as being human. And so that's what we call Inelia. She's like her soul was constructed. It's not quite a soul the way like maybe we have souls, which are, other things, other beings, subtle beings. But they constructed through mechanisms we do not understand how to construct a soul enough where it would stick and make a human. And I think there were some failed attempts, but eventually it stuck. And then that expression is what we might call Inelia, the singular. But really, Inelia and the we are the same. It's just, a band of expression, a band of awareness that expands and contracts according to what's going on in the moment.
Right.
That's my understanding.
And the expansion and contraction is between a collective and a singular viewpoint.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right. Who's next?
You don't have to go.
I can be.
If you agree with what we said.
Yes, actually, I do agree with what both of you say, and that it will be a question for the second hour. Actually, that if Inelia had, or actually not Inelia, but the we has that figured out, because there's one version they wanted to experience singularity, but at the same time, the human collective was requested for them to be here. So maybe they're being tricked into think that they wanted to experience singularity. We don't know yet. We'll see.
We'll find out.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Can't wait to hear more about that in the second part. My understanding of the we is that there are a multitude of viewpoints, and this brings an expanded awareness and gives Inelia this multi-viewpoint experience of the universe. This is how I understood it. Now, I can't wait to find more in the second part.
Yeah, the way you describe it, Annalena, I like it because it reminds me when Anelius described the we like a sieve, right?
Mhm.
So all those viewpoints, right? These
Yes.
expanded viewpoints. Also, the ultra-dimensional being resonates too, because in a sense, we are the sand, yet they also are human. They are a human being right now, having an experience in a sense as well, right? Through Anelia's physical body and that co-creation and so on and so forth. Who knows what else they are? So it's like, yeah, I can't even comprehend how to say who and what they are. I still struggle with their pronouns. So I think I think that's the best. Like collectively, I think we're at least somewhat of a good point. We might be getting there. We're getting warmer.
There's one aspect of the we that it helps me to understand what a collective, because she has described it is not a collective as the human collective, right? That it has different singularities, but it's just a different viewpoints, but it's not, there's no singularities among that collective. When they say we're data collectors, it's just data collectors. So it helps me to, like they can experience tons of different things. Like Ash mentioned, it can be the sand, or it can be now a human, but many other things in a different ways, like have that ability of experience and collect the data. I mean, just be multiple things. I'm going bananas.
Don't go bananas. And speaking of bananas, that was the next topic. Because what does bananas and wind mean to each of us? The song title. because
This is in reference to last week's episode about the music and the song she made, right?
Kind of, but when Larry's talking about the we, his brain goes to mush, and then he says, we all talk about bananas. And where that comes from is because we're monkeys, and we're not any smarter than monkeys, and all monkeys think about is bananas. And we care about bananas, and so we want to talk about what kind of banana is the banana. You know, are there different? Actually, there are different flavors of bananas. I've tried a lot of them.
Point proven right now.
Proven. But that's the bananas part, because we're monkeys, right? And then the wind part, you know, she never explained it originally, and I always thought it was like wind, like, you know, you're just blowing a lot of wind when you talk, kind of thing. It could also be, you guys will probably explain something else, but it's just like wind. Monkeys just talk about stuff, and they don't know what they're talking about, and it's just a lot of wind. There's a word called bloviate, which means to just blow a lot of wind and not really say much.
Can I like add to your comments, Fred? Because the way I recall the bananas thing came up is because Larry likes to call us, like, I think, doesn't he call us like monkey boys and like things when he's referring to us, you know? And so I'm not a monkey. Like, I know that. I'm pretty sure I know that, but this is where it gets bananas, right? Like and then I remember we were trying to do an interview with the wee ones, and we were asking questions, and then I think Larry started asking questions about like monkey boys and girls, meaning humans, you know, and then he was like asking about bananas, and then it was like, well, are bananas purple on other planets or something like that? Like, it was starting to go down, like there was like 10 questions about bananas, and it was hilarious because we're like, we're not here to learn about bananas, but that was where it went. And I think that might be where it came from, if I'm remembering it all correctly, because it was totally we went mush. That was definitely a mush recording. And I don't know where that recording's gone, but hopefully it got burned somewhere.
I have them. I have all the recordings.
Yeah.
And it's funny to watch.
Yeah.
We're like, and then we will say something very clear, and we will ask again the same thing in a different way.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, bananas.
Yeah. And then I always thought the wind was like, we're full of hot air or something like that. You know, that's kind of how I interpreted it or assumed what it meant.
Well, when a dog breaks wind, you know, that means something else.
Yeah. It makes sense. Although I don't like it now, knowing I'm like, no, I don't. I like my version better in the song. Yeah.
To me, the wind was just like everything that we say is gone with the wind. Like it's gone. It's like it doesn't stay. It doesn't stick. That was my understanding.
Oh, that's interesting. So the first time I heard the song Bananas and Wind, I knew already what bananas was, but then I made the assumption, because in Romanian we have an expression, and that's vorbe în vânt, which mot-a-mot translation, it is, words in the wind. And the meaning of that is like just words without value. Like another way of saying bananas, you know, I thought it was just that. And then, boom, there came Inelia with the meaning. I was like, oh, now I realize I made an assumption here of the meaning, because my mind went, you know, in the Romanian, in the translation, and, you know.
The association, you know.
Association, yes, exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
It's interesting that we all have slightly different ideas of what things mean. And if we all have it that much different, and we're thinking about this all the time, think about what we don't know about anything. Yeah. Anyway, and I guess the next topic is when the we is present. That's where it's often something that can drive you to becoming mushy in your brain. And I was looking at it, and it looks like it's got to do with physical proximity. And I noticed that, I always see Larry kind of, his brain kind of goes to mush sometimes. I'll be watching a podcast and I'll be like, from a distance, and I'll be thinking, I totally understand what the we just said. And Larry is just kind of talking about bananas right now. And he's putting his foot down. Like, I want to talk bananas. And I'm like, why? Just let the we talk. And it appears that I'm not so clever. I'm not more clever than Larry. I used to think like, oh yeah, just let me be there. I can do it. And then so I have been there recently. We've been doing these interviews, like sitting next to Inalia. And now I'm realizing that Larry's brain goes to mush because potentially proximity to the we. Because when I'm sitting next to the we, sometimes all of a sudden, my brain isn't like that clear right now, but at least I can put a thought together. But sometimes it just turns off. I'm like, damn, I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what she's saying. I'm just gone.
Banana mush.
Banana mush. So proximity is kind of like, sort of an energetic blasting or something like that. I don't know what's going on there. But do you guys have any of the same experience?
I've definitely been mushed plenty of times. I remember my first mushing. That's what we're going to call it now. The first time I went to mush, I can't say it was necessarily exactly the we, but like the we and Inalia, like where does one end and one begin? Like I wasn't aware that the we were there, but even in like one of the songs is like we actually are listening more than you're aware is the lyrics, right? And I remember on my way to the shaman shack for the very first time, we were doing a retreat that was offered to Walk With Me Now members. And I'm in a car with like 4 other Walk With Me Now members. And the gal who's driving looks over and says, so have you ever met Inalia in person before? And I was like, no, this is the first time. And she's like, oh, okay. Well, just get ready for it. And I was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I don't get it. Like, get ready for what? And she's like, well, like sometimes when you meet Inalia, she's like, it's hard to put to words, but when you're around her, like you get wobbly. Like that, in essence, that's what she was saying. And I was like, kind of got nervous. I'm like, what do you mean? Like you get wobbly? I don't even understand. And then we get to the shaman shack. I get out of the car and there's this little tiny woman which she's way tinier than what I thought she was, from seeing her on her interviews and just reading her articles, everything like that. This tiny woman. And yet I was like so wobbly. I could like barely talk. I was just like in the mush. And that was just physical proximity. And I wasn't in the mush the whole time. I was in this car with others. We were talking, we were laughing. Everything was great. And then all of a sudden I was just like, and not like starstruck, it wasn't like, oh gosh, now I just met like someone I really admire. Although there was that present, it was different. It was like physical wobble of my existence. That's the best way I could put it.
Yes, I have a similar.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just say that I have a similar experience. I was very excited to meet Inalia, and my sister had met Inalia in another event. And she had her own impression of like, oh, yeah, it's very interesting. But it was not that much. So I thought, oh, cool. And the first time I met her, it was like my brain went blank, like, even when she was saying, oh, hi. And I'm like, hi. But it's just this state of, it wasn't nervousness. It was just blank. That's how I describe it. It's just blank and also a feeling like uncertainty feeling, like you don't know how you feel. It's just weird. But later on, in other experiences, it depends. I feel like sometimes Inalia dial down the we in her, so it's you can feel it, like your body feels more kind of comfortable, more human per se, and it's easier for the ideas or the thoughts or the conversations to come. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes I'm trying and I'm sitting and I was like, oh, I don't like this feeling. I don't like this feeling. And then I like, oh, okay, probably it's the we presence, and it's okay, just be, just be. But it's that emotion or feeling of you're not there.
So interesting. I had a couple of mush we experiences as well. I went to that same retreat that Ashley was talking about. And at least for me, that was the first time I had seen the we come in full force. And what do I mean by that? It's, I think, like, the best way to describe it is, even though this isn't accurate, but the best way to describe it is seeing someone who channels. So if you've seen like a legit channeler, it's like, you know, there's this different entity that comes in and takes over the body. Now, the reason why that isn't accurate for Inelia is because she's not channeling the we, she is the we. It's not like she's channeling Bashar or Ra or whatever. But that's not the point. But what I saw was the distinction between the we in control of Inelia's physical body versus Inelia in control of her physical body. And it is so different. It's like 1,000% more energetically intense. And then also the mannerisms change, her facial expressions change, the whole feeling of what makes her feel like her is gone. Because what makes a person feel like a person is the like soul in the body. And all of a sudden there's someone else in there, or a lot of other people, viewpoints. And so trying to like, well, first having this experience, I remember looking into Inelia's eyes and the we are talking, and I'm like, I'm talking to an alien right now. That's interesting. But then this other like expression that came through just felt so different. And I remember in this retreat trying to ask questions about the we, because I would say how we translate bananas is we're very self-absorbed. So we were like, tell us how many incarnations we've had on this planet, or tell us about significant past lives or whatever, and things like that. And then, you know, I guess that's bananas, right? We're very obsessed with like that stuff. And the experience was really tough to like latch on to in a way. It was easy to forget the data that came in, and even like, I don't know, people had different responses to what was happening, but it wasn't like fearful or anything. It was more just, it was so different to what we're used to in normal, everyday, modern Western life. And that like physical proximity, I think there's definitely something there, because when we like are in control of Inelia's body, it's like, I think not difficult for them to navigate that. Like Larry had to teach them a lot of stuff, like how to walk and things. But then also, you know, it's just the energy is so much more intense. I think Inelia does like, you know, she's really good at being human and she knows how to communicate really well. And then we do not. They don't at all. We even had to remind them a few times, remember to breathe. Are you breathing? I think Ashley, you said that.
It was so stressful because I was like noticing, I'm like, I don't think she's breathing, you know, because you could see like when we are like fully, like Inelia doesn't go away, right? That's the way she's described it. She's still there. But when we are, like, say in the driver's seat, like full on, like her whole like posturing, everything becomes different. It's stiff. It's not like this embodied, relaxed, fluid, like what we might be used to. And so I like was noticing like, and maybe in my yoga training, you know, I watch bodies and I noticed just not breathing. I'm like, don't forget to breathe. And she's like, oh, thank you, or something like that. And then breathes. And I'm like, do you need water too? Yes. And then they drink water. But it's like all very like, as if you were actually talking to me. It feels like you said alien race, yes. But also like, even like if it were an AI or something, like an artificial intelligence, and that's like a sentient one, that's the way I would like, it almost felt like in the physical. and it just wasn't fully programmed yet to maneuver a physical body, you know? But I do also recall that I think your analogy, Dr. Kara, related to the channeling is really, it is very similar, because I remember being at an Abraham Hicks event, and I could feel when they like entered, you know, like the frequency, everything changed in the room, you know? And I mean, maybe at least that was my perception, but it was like right before she comes on stage, and you could just like, she's at the side of the stage, you could see her, and then you can all of a sudden just like, or maybe, you know, she's on stage actually, I think is what it was. And you see her, she kind of like pauses and does something, and then you can feel it like, and it's this like large awareness field that just entered the room.
I have heard before some people saying like it feels, or they say, oh, I think Inelia is an AI and a sentient AI. And I think it's because of the feeling, that feeling that you just described. It's very accurate for sure. But I think there's not just the mush and that. I have one other experience during mentoring that she started dissolving, like literally, like she started talking, and then all of a sudden I have to concentrate on her eyes, like what are her eyes? And then it's like everything around me was kind of disappearing, and it was just kind of color pink, like a cloud. And I was trying to focus in Elia's face, and literally it was just like, what's happening? And then probably my body was panicking because what was going on, like. And then she's like, and then she started giggling and then come back. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, it was hard to picture your eyes and your mouth. Like, oh, okay, did I start disappearing? And like, I guess. So it's all these variants of how do you experience the we. Like, there's all these other qualities too and experiences.
I remember once at the Shaman Shack, we were talking. Now, I'm not sure. My feeling is that somehow at least a little bit of the we was present, because my experience was that we were talking and then she asked me something that we just finished talking about. And I had to make the effort to remember what I said or what she said. I was like, this is weird. Like, I have to make the effort to remember what we talked just before. How is this possible? And I also, and another thing that I felt was that she was very intense during that conversation. And then me struggling to remember, like, to remember what I just said.
Yep, that can happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
There was another interesting encounter we had with the we at a different retreat. This was years later. And we were interested in having a conversation with the group, but they made very clear they did not want to talk about the me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
And then we were like, what do we do?
That's all we have.
We're like crickets.
Yes, but we came up with some questions, but it was tough. It was like trying not to turn into mush, but then also trying to expand awareness that's not ego and self-centered and all this stuff. I think I asked a question about like, how do stars work? How do you travel through stars? And, I don't know, things like that. And because the question wasn't right, and they also have to translate, and Inelia is like in the background translating the questions, and, the answers were kind of like, well, have a spaceship that doesn't collapse from gravity and heat or something like that. And they're like, oh, we don't have the right questions yet. So even then we were trying not to fall into bananas, and yet it's totally bananas, because why would I be asking questions, or we would be asking questions about space travel through stars and stuff? It's all about like, me, myself, and I guess. It was just mush. And we tried not to be mushy, and then it all just became banana mush again. So, but practice.
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy being around, for me anyway. I'm a person who feels things in my body, and because of those body feelings, I might have I'd be reactionary. or change the way I approach things and things. Because if somebody like big and scary comes, I will like internally retreat and then respond to that because they're big and scary, right? And so, but I've never really analyzed that about myself. I'm just kind of a reactionary kind of being, and I'm learning later in life how not to be that way. But so I get in the presence of Inalia, and my body just starts doing backflips and things. And there's like, I'm about going to the shaman shack on Sunday. It's like, oh, this is gonna be great, you know. I'm thinking, and all of a sudden I get there, and Inalia's there, and my body goes into slight fear, and I'm like, and then I start to like react and go into some kind of like, and I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I'm looking at my body. I'm like, body, what are you doing? And it's like, body's like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm in fear. And I'm like, well, why? She's just sitting there smiling at you. It's like, I don't know. So that's an ever-present thing. But it's not always like that. It's like, it's almost like when she can turn that off. Like, it seems like in the podcasts, when I sit down in the podcast, she comes in, she smiles at me, and I don't feel that at all. And then other times, it's just there. And so I'm having trouble navigating that.
I think you might be the common denominator there.
Well, yeah.
Inalia is Inalia, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I wonder if it is
Yeah.
because I have feel it within myself. Like I wonder in sometimes there's certain programs that comes up because of Inelia's frequency is a certain level. And then if my frequency is whatever, I mean, not saying low, whatever program is, I mean, running or something, it comes up like it's not, and it's like, oh, okay, I'm running this program. Like it's just kind of like an amplifier of what's going on in me, like to raise my frequency. I mean, of course, not to 100% to Inelia's, but just to raise my frequency to at least be in her field. I mean, that's how I personally analyze it and think it happens.
I think you're
But
right.
I noticed that. Yeah.
She's talked about how she's like a battery, you know? So my experience is like, it's like all the things that we have running, it's like, it just gets amplified with all this energy in a way. And then we can see it, or we can hear it, or we can sense it. And it maybe was always there. We just didn't notice, or we were ignoring it, or suppressing it in some way. And like, that's been my experience of it. But she's definitely referenced times where she's like, she'll reference turning her energy up or turning it down. You know, another workshop, it was Instant Manifestation workshop. I think it was like 2 or 3 days in, and it was a 10-day workshop. And she said, some representatives of the group came to me and have asked me to turn it down and slow it down and all these things. And we're all just like, thank God. Okay, good.
The egos, right?
The ego's like, no, keep going. Yeah. But I think there's something to it. And there's this element of like where it feels like maybe it's the layers of our construct, like our singular construct, start to like how it's not solid. So it starts to like dissipate in some way, or maybe expand. And then like we're moving into this expansion and we're like, wait, where are all those pieces? Give it back. You know, or the ego starts to get, you know, it's like something like that seems like it happens in the presence of the we and also Inalia. But one thing you had brought up, Fred, that I wanted to circle back on is around the proximity, because I was thinking about this, and I did a period of time where my mentoring for a short time was virtual with Inalia. And then I also recall when we've recorded like this for the podcast, where I definitely started to go mushy, depending on the topic and what was going on. And especially if like the we were coming in with information. And so that makes me think it's maybe not just proximity, but then, okay, it leads you to wonder, what is it? Why do we go mushy? What is that?
Maybe
Have you had this experience virtually?
Maybe proximity isn't what we think it is. There is no space and time, or there is, I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's true, Ash, because what I noticed, like before, when we used to record here, like virtually, it was a lot more difficult for me to listen in, to hear. I was very kind of nervous because if I don't hear correctly the words or something. And it was that I will feel that kind of presence of the we. But it's a lot easier being in the room with Inelia. Like, it's a lot easier to do the interviews present with Inelia. So I think now that you mention it, is gotta be another element too.
I totally agree with what you are saying, Ileana, because I have the same experience. When we were recording over Zoom before, I also felt the same, like it was kind of hard to maybe understand, as you said, like all the words or things like that. But now, when we gather physically, I feel it's a lot better. Mm.
Yeah, I find like it's easier to understand in general with close proximity, just because you get more body cues.
Yes.
And so much of our language isn't just verbal. And when you only see this of somebody, and then you're also not feeling maybe their energetic field and what information they're putting out through that, yeah, it does kind of get difficult. And especially, I'm sure with like language differences and stuff, it makes another layer of that connection becomes challenging to read what's being said, or the energies behind it.
Probably Inelia make it easy for us and turn down the volume, right? Like, according to the person.
That
So
might
it's
be
easier for
the
us.
answer right there. The turning of the volume up or down.
Yeah, I've seen that happen at workshops and things.
Mhm.
But there is something to be said about when the we are in the driver's seat of Vanelli's body versus not. Like, whoa, it's very different. As far as like amplitude or loudness or power, I don't know. It's different, actually. But the body cues, like you were saying, Ash, the like signature, like, I don't know, the ways in which humans also communicate, which isn't just words, but through micro gestures, movement, it's very, very different. And so that is definitely like a distinction in my experience between full on we presence versus not. But I have also heard Inelia share, maybe she'll share more about this in the second hour, is how the we and Inelia have gotten better at like working together and communicating. Because I think for many years they like kind of were in the background and not on the forefront, like not very present, not very like impinging, or I don't know how she might describe it. But also in recent years, they've gotten better at like collaborating and having a more of an in and out blended experience rather than the sharp distinction that we were sharing earlier. So I think that's another element too that's different in recent years, is, you know, that like you said, Ash, in some of the lyrics, it's like they're observing more than we realize. I think that's happening a lot more because they've also gotten better themselves about how to navigate being human together, which is pretty cool.
Which the fact that they now have learned how, I'm going to say learned how to create music and have that creation as Inelia with Inelia Records, it's amazing, right? It's like magic. It's all this information just like gets like past our firewalls, past our filters, past our limitations, all this, and then it's like, oh, I get it. You know? And maybe even you don't necessarily fully understand it, you're not melting, you're not going to mush, but you're also like, you're like the frequencies, it's like you're retaining that in some way. It feels so different.
And it's interesting how each of the albums and the artists, they have a specific effect. In, at least personally, I can feel it, like it's one album is for one thing and this other one is for a different experience or a different frequency that helps me very specific in one thing. It's just amazing. It's not just the songs, because even she has songs that there are by different artists, right? And like different tune. And it feels different in your body. It feels completely different. So
Yeah.
it's just.
And the lyrics are very beautiful. And in my experience, I didn't get it from the first time or the second time, but I had no problem to put it on repeat so many times. And at some point I got it. Like, oh, now I understand, what she said here. And, oh, now I got it. This is happening like almost every day. Oh, now I understand. Oh, this is what she's saying here. But it's good because I have no resistance to like put it again and again and again. And, just natural. Okay.
Thank goodness for the music. It's like we can finally like talk and we can hear instead of just bananas. What about bananas? Like,
But we have questions.
just listen. Just listen to the music. Okay.
Actually, speaking about questions, maybe one of the last points we can make is that we know that the we was presented to us as almost an infinite intelligence. They know so many things beyond us in different timelines, and there is no
universes,
times and universes. So what's interesting to us? If you could ask infinite intelligence anything, what would you ask? And yes, I'm interested in, the universe at large and things like that. But the first thing I want to ask normally is like, can you give me a stock tip so that I can just, make a lot of money all at once because you have infinite intelligence, and just get that out of the way. And then we can go and have these other conversations about, the universe at large and how things work. It's like, because I have, small monkey mind things that I want. And it's just like, wow, infinite intelligence with all the answers. Well, we can get a few things in line here. That would be nice. That's just kind of how I want to start with them. But they're like, well, what do you mean? In what timeline are you going to have a stock tip? And for how long? And it's like, oh, God, can't you just understand where I am at this point in time and just look like, along the same timeline? And like, yes, but every moment you're splitting into different timelines. So we don't know which one you want. And it's just like, I don't see it that way. I don't know. Just give me the answer.
Yeah.
It's like, just buy Apple and sell it 2 months later. It's like, okay.
A very good example of bananas, I think.
Well, it is, but then,
Yes.
but then after that, then I have like the bigger questions of the universe at large and our place in it and all those kinds of things.
I gotta say, asking those bigger infinite questions, at least for me, has been challenging. So I've mentioned before that we were at a retreat and we couldn't talk about me, myself, and I stuff. And so we hadn't like collaborated as a group beforehand to come up with questions. It was very much on the fly. Like, all right, go. We're like, okay. And I remember trying to ask questions about like the true nature of Earth, and that's when we heard at least for me, I heard for the first time Anelia or the we say, Earth is more like a honeycomb. And then I'm like trying to ask follow-up questions. I'm like, how many honeycombs are there? They're like, we're counting 1,200,000,000, whatever. Yeah. I'm like, how many honeycombs have humans gone into? 237. It's like, huh. Okay. So it's like there's this opportunity.
But you're right.
But it's so limited.
You need to absorb that information. It's like, okay, the Earth is like a honeycomb. Click, and your brain cracks. And it's just like, because the Earth is the Earth. It's a round ball in space, and it's like...
It's not a ball, and it's not in space.
Exactly. And so you have to get your head around that. Things have to melt, and you have to like expand into what does it mean to be a honeycomb, and then start to say, well, what does that really mean to be a honeycomb? And then ask intelligent questions about that. But to do it right there on the spot is like... okay, that's difficult.
It's like being a fish in the ocean trying to ask questions about, I don't know, let's just say life on Mars, for lack of a better term, right? Like there's no water, it's a quote different planet. And how do you know what you don't know? But at the same time, we also are like infinite divine beings in our own right that just have programs and limitations. So we actually already know all this stuff. We just chose to forget it all. And yet there's this orchestration to talk to a seemingly infinite intelligence from our tiny little pinpoint vantage point. And yet we just trying to just make it a little bit bigger is still quite bananas. So it's harder than you think.
Well, even the things you're saying, most people don't know and would have to expand into. Like most people don't know that you're a body and a soul. and you're having an experience together, they might intuit it somehow. But once you know that, then you can say, well, is that my body doing this or my soul doing this? And then you have different questions because you've absorbed the knowledge and you've integrated it, and you're just like, okay, I got that, right? That piece, I can move on. I can ask questions about that. But if you don't know that, and so that's the whole thing. They say something and it expands you out. And then, okay, now let's have a conversation about that. And it's like, well, you just broke my reality. So I need to go and think about that and absorb it. And
not be mush for a while.
Yeah, you're going to be mush for a while, because then first you have to believe it. It's just like, well, are they right? I don't know. I don't believe this.
Is the Earth a honeycomb?
Well, yeah. I mean, what does that mean to be a honeycomb? It's just like, well, everybody pictures like a beehive with a honeycomb, 2D or something like that. And it's just like, 3D. What is the shape of that? I don't know, And so these would be the kind of questions we would have to ask so that we could even have a better idea of it in our head to conceptualize it, right? It's like,
I think the irony of it all that gets me is like, we're in some way, from an expanded perspective, we're actually not very different from the we.
Right.
We are we, we are multi-dimensional being that is a collective that came to a universe to have an experience, got interested and curious, wanted to start creating. We didn't collect the data, we were creating, right? And then we created souls to be with bodies, to have a human like being experience, and so on and so forth. So in some ways, it's hilarious to me because we're like, what is this concept? It's so foreign, right? And yet it's like, is it that different from who we are on some level?
Good point.
Well, I mean, that's the exact truth, is that if you go up in frequency, we're all one, we're all a collective. But can we acknowledge and see that from where we're at? Well, raising your frequency will help you acknowledge and see that kind of thing. And we're endeavoring to raise our frequency. But if we raise our frequency too much, then we're not playing the game on Earth anymore. And
it's a different game.
And we're still trying to play the game on Earth, but we're trying to be in the light Earth, not the light dark Earth. That's why we've incarnated, supposedly, right now, to be light and get away from the light dark. And so that's just the next level up. It's barely...
But you say...
it's barely anything. It's barely anything, according to Inelia is always saying the way that we looks at it, that's almost the same frequency level. And we're like, no, it's totally different. No.
Yeah, for me, sometimes is like now I understand. Like before, I was more curious about, because of the programs and limitations, that you feel that you are not an unlimited being, right? And you feel that you're just a human. Like that's at least how I grew up. And then you will trying to get all these deep questions about the universe, and because you trying to not be just the human. But now I think it for me have changed a lot. It's more about like, which limitation I choose for being here, and what kind of experience I can have right now. And like, what are the programs and what are the experiences that I want to have, and how do I change my limitations, and how do I manage being here rather than, because it's somehow now I know that once I decide, I can be again the spirit outside of my body and being in another universe and exploring the stars and blah, 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 right? But like for here, like with a body, how I wanted to experience here. What do I wanted to do it right now? Like what you say, right? Like, okay, that limitation of the scarcity or like depth or all that, that's is the one I want to figure out. Like how Inelia describes, okay, humans can have it all, and you can have it, you don't need money, and you have it, and that's what I want to experience. I want to figure that out right here in this planet right now. Those questions.
That's such a good
and we
point,
have, right, like all the tools Inelia teaches.
Yeah.
So,
and I think it's really easy for people to give their power away, right, to a being that we feel is like, quote, superior because they see more or they have an expanded awareness and all these things. And I, felt myself doing that in the past where I was like, oh, yeah, we obviously know a lot better than I do. But like, that's not true. For one, like this is the first time having a human experience. They actually don't know a lot about being human yet. Whereas we probably have had, I don't know, millions, gazillions of incarnations. But
according to the Wii, 347 lifetimes in this, we'll say, dimension.
Wow. See?
In this containment?
In this, yeah. Sure. I don't know.
That's 346 more than they've had. But like,
sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
No, it's a great point. It's exactly on point because it's like when we talk about this expanded awareness, it's really easy to give our power away, whether it's to Inelia or the we. But the whole point is like having a conversation, like the sand and the ocean, right? That they talked about in their music, and us humans and collective consciousnesses or whatever. And so it's, I think, interesting to explore from that perspective too. Like, what do we talk about with the we? Like when they're sand and they talk to the ocean, they have a conversation. So what do we as humans, singularity humans in our paradigm, what do we say? I think that's cool to look at and explore.
Yeah. Expanding our awareness. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Annelina.
Just wanted to add that, we prepared some questions for the second part and some comments and to explore with the we. And I think it will be interesting. We'll see.
I think it's going to be interesting to find out from Larry and Inelia and the we if this was all bananas and wind.
Yes.
Well, of
but
course
I think
it
we
is.
might already know the answer. So it'll be good to get their take on this. In our Wisdom Keeper, Wisdom Seeker second half, which will be starting in just a moment.
Yay.
See you then.
Bye.
Bye. Welcome, everyone, to the Wisdom Keeper Hour, the second half of Driving to the Res. And alas, we've got Larry and Inelia. Hi, Larry. Hi, Inelia. Welcome. So we've got to know, what did you think of the first half? Did you listen to it?
We did, yes.
We listened to the first half in the truck on our way back from a no water trip.
And we laughed so hard.
It's like, this is what the we is, I think. And it said some words, and then...
Anybody agree with me? No.
And I'm like, where did he get that idea?
Join us for the rest of this conversation at drivingtotheres.com.
And when you go to drivingtotheres.com and you join in the rest of the show, rest of the second hour, you also get to join in the after party. 9 o'clock on Fridays, we all get together, including you.